While the talking stick of the Yaquis was a mythic one, during the time of the prophet Hosea, the Israelites consulted staffs that did, in fact, speak. At least that was the claim. The Hebrew translated as declareth in the King James Version is nagad, which is usually translated as tell or declare. As Strong's exhaustive concordance explains, nagad is derived from a primitive root, which means to stand boldly out opposite. By implication, it means to announce, always by word of mouth. The staff declared the oracle to the ancient Israelites verbally. The New International Version translation of the verse is plainer on this point. There is a wider mythic context to the talking staff or stick, that of talking trees. As we shall see from the perspective of the mythic archetypes, the caduceus and sacred trees, such as the tree of life, are versions of each other. The underlying planetary archetype is the same. It should not come as any surprise, then, that if there are talking staves, there are also talking trees. Indeed, this is the case. In fact, the mythic archetype of the talking tree is found throughout the world and persists in modern culture to this day. In many cases, especially the more ancient versions, the talking tree is a means of obtaining prophecy. The most famous Greek oracle next to Delphi was Dodona. According to Herodotus, the trees in a sacred grove next to the sanctuary of Zeus were endowed with the power to speak and do so prophetically. It was the rustling of the leaves of the tree that was considered the voice of Zeus. Apollodorus testified that Jason cut a timber from the speaking oak of Dodona and fitted it on the prow of his ship, the Argo. The timber retained the ability to speak and provide oracles. Alexander the Great, in a letter to Aristotle, related that he visited two Indian oracle trees called the Tree of the Sun and the Tree of the Moon. Both had the power to speak and foretell the future in both Indian and Greek. When Alexander reached the two trees, he asked about his fate. The Tree of the Sun prophesied in Indian that the king would die of poisoning. The Tree of Knowledge of Good and Evil was a form of the talking tree, at least iconographically. The tree never speaks in the Old Testament account. However, the serpent tempting Eve does speak. The most prominent iconographic representation of the serpent shows it entwined around the trunk of the tree. Symbolically, the tree and the serpent are one entity. When the serpent speaks, the tree speaks. The serpent coiled around the tree trunk takes the form of the caduceus, the serpent staff of heralds, and the staff of Aaron.